Hey guys, what is up? It is SSD Middleman here with GuidesForUsAll, and today we'll be looking at the Zarr. Again, just a few hours after I released my first video on the Zarr, it was buffed, of course. So let's start this off by seeing what was buffed. The new stats of the weapon are on screen now. The crit chance was increased to 15%, the status chance was increased to 20%, the barrage range was increased by 3 meters, the barrage reload time was fixed to match the cannon reload time, punch through was added into the barrage mode, and self-damage was removed from the secondary cluster bombs released by the initial explosion. Do note that the initial shot can and will still damage you if shot too close to you. These buffs may seem small, but are actually very significant. With the crit chance increased, a critical hit build is now more viable, which is exactly how I modded my Zarr now. I decided to use a Forma on it so I could throw on Hammer Shot as well as Vital Sense for a 7x critical hit multiplier, which is very high and will allow us to hit very high damage numbers. I used High Voltage and Malignant Force for corrosive damage plus Point Strike for a higher crit chance. Fast Hands was thrown on there because I had 4 mod points left over, and a faster reload speed doesn't hurt the Zarr. It's also worth noting that the 75% status chance will proc quite often. Let's talk about the weapon itself now. The Zarr has 2 firing modes, Cannon Mode and Barrage Mode, which you can switch between by pressing middle mouse button. Cannon Mode will shoot a projectile that explodes and turns into 6 more projectiles, which will blow up and damage enemies even more. Multi-Shot will increase the number of both types of projectiles. This mode is insanely powerful and deals tons of damage and procs onto enemies. This is the preferred mode to use the weapon, and you do have to be very careful with it though, as the initial shot does deal self-damage, which will probably down you if you hit yourself. Next, let's discuss the buffed Barrage Mode, which gave it 3 extra meters of range and punch through. The now 15 meter shot will allow you to hit enemies a bit farther away, but it's still a super short range. The punch through is pretty nice and makes this firing mode actually viable if enemies get too close to you and you don't want to down yourself. The Barrage Mode can deal a pretty high amount of damage, but not without its downsides. If you're not very close to the enemy, you're likely going to miss many of the pellets or not deal any damage at all if you're just out of that 15 meter range. You also only have 3 shots and a somewhat long reload speed on the weapon. Compared to any other shotgun in the game, this firing mode just doesn't stand up. All in all though, the Zarr was good, but is now great. The buff allows you to proc status and crits very often, which can take down tough enemies with ease. The 2 firing modes is mostly for show, but can be useful in certain circumstances. If I had to re-rate this weapon post-buff, I would give it a 9 out of 10. You're definitely going to want to pick this weapon up sometime. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like rating down below and subscribe to see some more videos in the future. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook at GuidesForUsAll. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.